Friends, what up? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Rejoice, my brothers, for a day is upon us that is like no other. A new Hawas has been released. Oh wait, no, that's like an every other week thing. Yeah, never mind. This one's different though. This is Hawas Sapphire, which is a collaboration with content creator FB Fragrances. It says so right there on the front, FB Fragrances edition. That way you don't get confused. I bought my bottle from Intense Oud for like 60 bucks. Now, I think that there's supposed to be another one sent to me just because.
I hope you know that.
And if that's the case, I'll give that one away to one of you. I'm gonna do a giveaway regardless, but if that one never shows up, I'll just buy another one and give it away in full transparency. And there's a boatload to dive into. So first, let's go ahead and check out this presentation and I'll break this down and let you know how it smells. Pretty simple, pretty clean. On the front, you have the name of the fragrance. You have the concentration and size as well, 100 ml eau de parfum. And you can see right there on the front also, FB Fragrances Edition. You got the logo up top. On one side, you have your sticker of authenticity, which says scratch here, scratch and sniff, nice. On the back, you have a little information, and on the bottom, you're gonna find your batch code, barcode, and your ingredients. My bottle's pretty new, manufactured June 26. And here we've got the bottle, nice deep blue coloration to it, hence the name Sapphire. You also have, again, on the front there, FB Fragrances Edition. Cap looks pretty much the same as the one that they used on Tropical and also Ice, as Rasasi on top, and then on the bottom, a little sticker, and the cap does click into place. Let's go ahead and do a couple sprays here. Boom, atomizer's nice. Now this one's had a little bit of a weird rollout because Intense Oud was taking a bunch of pre-orders, right? They were pre-selling these and they were basically promoting like it's gonna ship this date. So go ahead and buy it right now. That way you're the first one to get it. And then that date came and it went and nothing had been shipped. And then like a week went by and Intense Oud sent out an email and they were basically like, yo, so the fragrances ain't here, but we're getting them in and we're starting to roll them out. So a lot of people out there are kind of like, you know, doing the John Travolta meme because they bought it, but I guess they're starting to work through the backlog and everything and get caught back up, but just kind of like a little foo bar at the beginning there. And ultimately, you know, grand scheme of things, an extra week's wait is not the end of the world. Let's go ahead and jump into how this one smells, what it reminds me of, and whether it's worth picking up, and then we'll kind of break down the whole Hawas issue right now. Hawas Sapphire opens up with a really big blast of guava, along with a little bit of black currant in there as well. So the currant is gonna give it this little like tart bite. It's bright, it's attention grabbing, and off the top, it's really not too syrupy. So, you know, it's not gonna be headache inducing the first time you spray this on. And I actually like the black currant probably more than the guava because it cuts through that guava a little bit. It gives it this little almost prickly tartness, a faint green vibe to it as well from that currant. I mean, it's got some teeth to it when you first spray this on, to the point that it could be maybe vaguely divisive. You know, some people who don't like that big overload, but I think the stuff smells really nice off the rip. Now, that being said, the guava settles down pretty fast. Now, I mean, it hits with ferocity initially, like the first 2-3 minutes. That guava is really, really strong at that point, but it stops overwhelming all the other notes a lot sooner than I expected, because really going into this one, the expectation was that it was gonna have just this massive overdose of that guava note that was gonna linger and last for a long, long time. And when I say that, I mean prominently, right? Not as like a support note, but as the note. And for me, it's more that just in the first few minutes. And as it settles down, you get that currant that comes out more actually compared to the guava. They're almost in equal footing as it dries. And then you get a little faint waft of bergamot, not too much of that. But what really starts to become more of the star of the fragrance as it dries is the orange blossom and the musk. And those notes soften the fragrance up as it dries down. So they take some of the edge off of the black currant, for example, kind of smooth out the tartness that note brings. And it starts to push the fragrance more toward this polished, modern, sweet, laundry adjacent vibe with the tropical edge to it. Also, it does kind of remind me of Tales from Zanzibar when you first spray the fragrance on, mainly because of that guava. Doesn't have quite the same hit because it doesn't have that mint, although there is a little bit of a green aspect to this one. But yeah, it reminds me of Tales from Zanzibar. If you've never smelled that fragrance, Safari Breeze is an alternative to that scent that you might be familiar with. It's got a little bit of a vibe of that going on when you first spray this on. Not like a one-to-one or anything like that, but if I was gonna point to any fragrance that it reminds me of in the opening, it'd be that one. Now into the mid, you're gonna get a combination of things, mainly the orange blossom, the residual fruit from the opening, so it still has kind of a tropical sweetness to it, but not overloaded. And then that musk that I mentioned in the opening, you get that coming across in the mid as well. The guava, you can kind of pick up bits and pieces, but it's more like this, you know, bit of a haze, like a guava haze that carries over from the opening into the mid. It's not a thick, juicy slice of guava at this point. It's just more like a little waft that you get from time to time. It also takes on a touch of powder as well. Now, when I say powdery, I don't mean like heavily dusty. I don't mean like cosmetic powder or anything like that. You know, just this little bit of the way the orange blossom and the musk combine together gives it an almost like powdery adjacent vibe at times. Still stays really fresh, clean, approachable, easy to wear, all of that. And also, once you hit the mid, it reminds me of Blue Talisman. It becomes much, much, much more noticeable in the mid. In the opening, it doesn't really smell like Blue Talisman to me, but once you hit the mid and the fragrance kind of settles down and starts to like hitting its groove, you know, when things stop changing as much, it gets that Blue Talisman vibe pretty close. Like enough that when I smell it, that's the first thing I think of. And of course, that fragrance is really, really popular. There are tons of different alternatives to Blue Talisman on the market, where basically you have an inspired by fragrance that goes, okay, we're not gonna be a one-to-one of this fragrance or a one-to-one of this fragrance, but what we're gonna do is take inspiration from this one, you know, we're gonna get rid of some of the notes of it, but we're gonna keep the overall structure and then do the same thing over here. Get rid of some of these notes, but keep the overall chassis of the fragrance intact. We're gonna combine those two. That way you get something where the opening smells similar to this one, but not the exact same. And then the mid and dry down smell similar to this one, but not the exact same. And in combining those two ideas, you know, changing things up, giving a twist to each one of them, you end up with something that's its own thing while clearly being inspired by two things. So you get the big tropical blast off the top as soon as you spray it on. And then as it dries down, you get the smooth, musky, fruity, sweet, fresh, clean kind of vibe that Blue Talisman gives. And into the dry down, this one is more just an evolution of what it is in the mid. So there's not a huge change from mid into dry down as there is, you know, opening into mid. Feels modern, smooth, very crowd friendly, super easy to wear. I mean, obviously looking at the fragrances that it reminds me of should tell you that much anyway. And interestingly, at times in the dry down, in the air specifically, you'll catch like an occasional waft where it's just like a little hint of that guava tries to peek back out, which is kind of weird because in the mid, I don't really pick it up much at all. Then in the far dry down, sometimes you just catch like just a little tiny hit, a little waft. All right, let's talk performance. Let's talk seasonality, because this is a Hawas. You know, Hawas, most people think has to last 24 plus hours and fill up an entire gymnasium, not even a room. Initially, Sapphire pushes pretty well for me. When you first spray it on, you know, when that guava is really kicking, it's kind of loud. But once that settles down, it's not remotely beast mode as far as projection goes. So if that's really, really important to you, be aware of that. Now, I'm not saying the projection's bad, because it's not. It's just not as strong as a lot of people have come to expect Hawas to be. So if that's what you're expecting, you'll be disappointed. It's not nuclear. It's good. It's not great. Longevity though is solid, sticks around for a long time on your skin. If you spray it on clothes, obviously lasts even longer. So the best way to think about it is it's long lasting, but it's not room filling. In terms of seasonality for me, I'd say spring, summer evenings, and fall, probably. You could wear it during summer days as well, obviously, but if it's really crazy hot and humid, probably go for something else that's maybe a little bit fresher, because this one does linger for a while in that musk, orange blossom kind of vibe. All right, so what I paid for this one was 60 bucks. I think it was technically $59.50, but whatever, 60 bucks. At that price, to me, it's overpriced. But that really is pretty much every single Hawas. You know, as soon as they launch, these different stores try to put them out at a marked up rate because they want everyone to, you know, buy it at that higher margin so they make more. And then as soon as the first wave has purchased and it kind of slows down, they drop the price. At 35 to 45, that's a solid price. You know, if you pick it up at that, you're not gonna really feel bad about it. At 60, you're paying a premium so you can be one of the first ones to get it. And realistically, you don't need to do that. Because at 60, you could pretty much buy an alternative to Tales from Zanzibar and one of Blue Talisman. And if you want to, just spray them on together and get like a similar vibe, or wear them separately and have just a one-to-one of each one. So, I mean, I'd wait for it to dip down in price, but if you want to scoop it up at 60, it's not like egregiously priced or anything. And to be clear here, that's not like an FB Fragrances thing. That's just a Hawas thing. When they launch them, they usually put them out at that price point. Hawas Sapphire, whether or not you like that it's associated with another creator, is a solid fragrance. To me, it's very clearly a hybrid version of of Tales from Zanzibar and Blue Talisman. And it's done really well. Like if you took FB Fragrances edition off of the front here, a lot of people would really like this stuff. That doesn't mean it's all positive. There are definitely some negatives here as well, but it's pulled off well. And I know it's gonna get memed on to death because A, it's a Hawas, and at this point, Hawas is kind of a meme, and it is associated with a younger creator, so a lot of people are gonna kind of dump on that as well. But to be fair here, you know, being approached by one of the biggest names in all of Middle Eastern fragrances and having them say, hey, do you want to do your version? 99% of people are going to say yes. If nothing else, just because it would be cool. So I'm not going to hate on him for that because like I said, 99% of people would say yes, please.
No, I would say not.
Does that make Rasasi less of a meme for how many different Hawas fragrances they're releasing? No. In fact, they're doing them dirty because they've got lots of releases coming out immediately before, during, and after his release. So they're like, yeah, well, we'll put your release out with the 32 other ones that we're releasing over the next 2 months. Just make sure you say all of our stuff is great, and maybe we can do a second one later on. Make sure you do that for us, bud, thanks. So I'm sure it's kind of a crappy situation in a lot of ways because, you know, you're like, did you really have to friggin' release all these at the same time? Not a great look. Putting all that noise aside, it smells good. Pros and cons. Love the opening. The guava, the black currant grabs attention right away, and I like the little tart green edge that the currant gives. The tropical sweetness is actually not as overwhelming as I expected, and it's a really nice blend of Tales from Zanzibar and Blue Talisman. It has solid longevity, it's versatile, it's easy to wear, and it has really good compliment potential as well. The projection is moderate, and for a lot of people, that's not gonna fly when it comes to Hawas. The launch price point of 60 bucks is a little high in my opinion, but again, that's a Rasasi thing. Also, like I just mentioned, with it arriving amid 10 different Hawas releases, it kind of loses its luster, and that Blue Talisman influence, especially through the mid and the dry down, is pretty noticeable. So it's not so much an original, it's gonna feel pretty familiar to a lot of other people out there, which could be a con for people who are looking for something that's not really been done that much. I think if you completely ignore the FB Fragrances edition and just approach this as like a Hawas blend of those two fragrances that I talked about, most people would find this to be one of the better Hawas releases over the past, you know, couple years where they've just been absolutely hammering them. Not saying it's the best of them all, but it is nowhere close to some of the crap shows they put out. There we go, Hawas Sapphire. Let's do the giveaway. Like I said, I don't know if there's another one of these coming. If there's not, I'll just buy one. What we'll do with the giveaway is you have to like the video, be subscribed to the channel, leave me a comment. Let me know your favorite Hawas release of the past couple years, because there have been a bunch of them. I'll pick a winner with random comment picker, post it up on the post tab of the YouTube channel, and if you're the winner, I will ship it out to you. I want to thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.